good.
So basically, Ro hit her burger, and while they were looking at Ro, I hid my burger.
Woo, finished it. Now time for the corn.
I think they think they're being really cute and fun, but it comes off to me as just obnoxious.
Rosanna, where's the hamburger?
What?
Oh, Sophie, we're missing.
I totally ate it. We ate it.
Maybe I'm reading into it. Matt actually kind of looks a little bummed out. Like, is it so hard to just turn off the... What even is it? It's like the YouTube energy. Can you just turn it off for 1 minute to respect what's happening? Okay, I know this is what people are gonna think. They're gonna say, this is what the show is. The people get on here and they chose these people because they know that they're gonna be over the top and obnoxious and the kids are gonna love it, right? That's not even what, I skimmed through the other episodes, especially Rosanna's episode when they were doing the baking stuff. They were actually trying. They were giving her the respect that she was in charge. They were trying to do the challenge and they were trying to do it the way that she taught them to do it. Everybody else was trying to be respectful. She's being unbelievably rude this entire time.
We ate it. Now time for the corn. Let's lawnmower, baby. That was
Where's that?
Preston, go away.
Where did you put that burger?
I'm in the middle of a competition.
Why is there a burger in your lap?
You're rude. Preston. Oh, so rude.
I know that's like ironic. Man, it just makes me so annoyed. I haven't been annoyed by something like this in a long time. I try to always keep that positive energy. I think the last time something like this happened was that Ellen thing. I'm getting all itchy. It's like making me so frustrated.
Where's the burger in your lap? What? Not in my kitchen.
Oh my God.
Look, even he had to turn away. He can't even watch anymore.
Points are being deducted, y'all. Look over there. Sophie just threw her burger over there. How could she? Back to business. We're gonna warm up with the typewriter.
That's definitely not what you taught her. The technique.
I didn't teach her. I didn't tell her to spit the corn out.
There's a lot of debris, my guy.
We're gonna see who's actually gonna win today. Like, who's gonna be the champion of Copy That?
Truly an honor. Are you guys on the edge of your seats? I am literally, I couldn't possibly be closer to the edge of this seat right now. I am just dying to learn who the winner of Copy That is gonna be.
Well, Rosanna and Sophie, you copied that to the best of your abilities.
Did they though? Did they though, Preston? Did they do it to the best of their abilities?
Props to you guys, because that's a lot of food.
It would have been a lot of food if they ate any of it. I mean, come on, let's be real with ourselves. What is this show?
I'm just genuinely surprised at how quickly you were able to eat everything. Thank you.
You see, even she knows. She knows. She's like, what are we doing here?
Ro, there was a lot of debris on the plate, but your technique was really good.
Thank you.
Was it? It was really good. That technique was really good. Am I insane? Have I lost my marbles? What's happening? Why am I so itchy? I'm tweaking out. I've been thinking about this video since the day it came out. This has been a good 6 weeks of me just like.
But I can only pick one.
Sophie.
Duh. She tried to push the wing. She tried to lawnmower the corn on the cob. Duh. Rosanna was just trying to be a freaking clown the whole time.
I choose Rosanna!
No way.
All right. Goodbye. I'm done. Where's the integrity? You have no integrity, my friend. You know darn well they were in his ear like, hey, Preston, we know obviously this was a landslide victory for Sophie. Rosanna literally did not try at all. She embarrassed all of us out here. You gotta vote for Rosanna so Matt Stoney can break the tie.
Okay, wow, it's down to me now, I guess.
No integrity, my friend. You know darn well they were in his ear like, hey, Preston, we know obviously this was a landslide. Goodbye. I'm done. Where's the integrity? You have no integrity, my friend. You know darn well they were in his ear like, hey, Preston, we know obviously this was a landslide victory for Sophie. Rosanna literally did not try at all. She embarrassed all of us out here. You gotta vote for Rosanna so Matt Stoney can break the tie.
Okay, wow, it's down to me now, I guess.
This is a lot of
down to me. The pressure's here. Okay.
I was hoping to just fade away into the background and maybe detach myself from the situation. Okay, I guess I'll vote.
The winner. Copy that. Sophie.
Okay, congratulations, this is great. Now, I think the thing that bothers me the most about this, because you expect this type of attitude from these people. You almost, and it sucks, but you almost expect them to come into anything and just like not take it seriously. Just be like, I'm just here to be the center of attention. And it is like a select group of people, but that is the group that's always in everything. YouTube loves that group of people. And for once, it felt like they brought in somebody who was real and who was genuine. They brought Matt Stoney in. And even then, that wasn't enough to save this absolute disaster of a show from being completely derailed by the others. It just sucks when you bring those two worlds together. Like, I would almost rather Matt had not been a part of this at all. I know it's great for him, and hopefully he got paid to be there. And maybe he had a good time, I don't know. The look on his face says one thing, but it's just frustrating for me. And I'm sure plenty of other people, I mean, read through the comments on this video. This is clearly not the energy that viewers wanted to see. And, you know, another argument could be like, well, this show wasn't made for you. This show is made for 10-year-olds or whatever. And maybe it was, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating. I've always been of the mindset that you can't say, oh, something was made for kids, therefore it's okay that it's bad. And it's okay that it's annoying. I kind of think the opposite. I think if something's made for kids, it should explicitly not be annoying. You want kids to watch annoying people be annoying and learn how to be annoying? It's annoying. I know it holds their attention, but I mean, what are we really doing in the long run? Is this good for kids to be seeing these people? These are the role models? Matt Stoney deserved better than this. He deserved so much better than this. There's been a development. So I just saw a tweet that says YouTube is suspending its YouTube Originals program. Video as well, and all of those comments
The housing market is on its last legs. Every year, more and more people get pushed out of even having the possibility of having their own home.
The United States is going through a housing affordability crisis.
Correct. Now, this surge is causing many Americans to wonder, are we barreling toward a housing market crash?
A whole generation priced out of their future, treading water just to keep their heads above the currents. Meanwhile, the entrenched upper classes and corporate landlords see their investments skyrocket in value as the demand for homes continually outruns the supply. But this presents a perplexing situation. If almost everyone is priced out of homeownership, then what's driving this rapid increase in housing costs? And even more importantly, if nobody can afford houses, who's going to be buying these homes in the first place? Well, maybe this is the reason that for the first time in years, house prices have begun to fall in the UK, and quickly. We've seen a 4.7% drop over the past year, the highest level since 2009, and the US isn't far behind. Prices finally beginning to stagnate after years of back-to-back price hikes. And yet even still, it's almost impossible for anyone to own a home. And with stagnating wages and less ownership, what's going to happen to the housing market? Is this the beginning of a crash? Has the market finally hit a breaking point, or is it just going to recover, reset itself, and happen all over again? When you're a kid, you get told that there's a set of goals for you to hit, milestones that mean the difference between success and failure. Some of them are getting a college degree, buying your first car, getting married, and starting a family. But above everything else, you're told that buying your own home is the key to not just surviving, but thriving. It's not just an outdated pitch today, it's a fairy tale, a relic of a time when homes were actually affordable and one salary could support a family. Today, everything's different. Forces like overpopulation, inflation, inequality, and a lack of supply have gathered over generations, putting us right where we are today. If you take a look at how affordable housing is today, it's the worst it's ever been in decades. We all know this. And despite the fall in prices for the UK, there's still a long way to go before average people will have a shot at homeownership. The average home still goes for a little over £260,000, £45,000 higher than it was in 2020, a figure that's over $300,000. Now, a lot of this can be chalked up to the 14 times in the past 2 years that the Bank of England has raised interest rates, making it far more expensive to borrow money. This has meant far harsher mortgages and less people willing to buy, dropping prices. In the short term, the UK is facing the potential of a major crash. The post-COVID recovery hasn't gone as planned. Everything got far more expensive as inflation outpaced wages. We're now only seeing wages even begin to catch up, when the interest rate was 0%. During COVID and even before, mortgage deals were much cheaper. Lots of people took advantage and got on the property ladder, buying expensive houses. Every house is expensive today, but still, June of 2021 saw the largest increase in homes bought in the UK by a wide margin, over 165,000. In April of 2023, it was just under 40,000 homes sold, half of what it was just a few months before. And it's a similar picture in the US. Over 6 million homes were sold in 2021, dropped by 1 million in 2020, and is expected to drop a bit over 4 million this year. The average mortgage on the average home with a 20% down payment costs $2,440 a year now in the US, nearly $1,200 less than it was 2 years ago when all these deals were being signed. Lots of these homeowners got in with comparatively good deals, but those fixed rate deals are coming to an end soon.
It's the next few quarters where you'll see the worst pain for the housing market because the majority of mortgage borrowers in the UK are on fixed rates, and the Bank of England estimates that only a third of the rate hikes that have already been done have passed through already.
As those mortgages all get renegotiated to today's interest, it's going to leave people with a massive jump in monthly payments that are still just going to the bank for interest. A massive proportion of people won't be able to make the payments. A similar situation to what happened in 2008. Other costs like energy, food, and the rest have all gone sky high as well, leaving little room for this. The average American is already over $10,000 in debt through credit cards alone. People are overstretched, and falling house prices will only make things worse. Without equity, people will be left without the means to downsize and buy a different house. This is just one reason why it might not be a great idea to sell your house right now. In the UK, home prices have dropped for 6 months in a row. The only thing keeping them up has been the rampant inflation. Real drops are as high as 13% once you account for it, with even more price drops looming. Any home you buy might fall in value by 10% or more within a year. If you only had enough for a small deposit under that amount, you'd end up losing far more money than if you just waited or rented. Massive interest rates also aren't helping things, and they aren't going to go away anytime soon. They make it so much more expensive to pay off a mortgage, especially considering the first years of the deal are mostly paying off interest. This means you'd be stuck paying the banks far more than usual. In a few years, the interest rates will hopefully have cooled down, and there's also the very clear potential of a massive crash right now. Anyone with skin in the game that needs to downsize after the massive hit would find it hard. Everything we just talked about would make it much more costly to get out of a bad deal. It's a cruel circle that tons of people need house prices to fall to be able to afford one, but if they do fall, it will ruin millions of other people's financial plans and stability. It's a result of the shift in views on homes from a necessity and a commodity to an investment. After World War II, when the boomers were being born, buying a home was a lot different. Everything was a lot different, really. Compared to our current stagnation, it was a time of rebirth. In the US, this growth was pushed by the GI Bill. To reward the people who fought in the war and restart the economy, the government provided a massive package of aid to veterans. They subsidized mortgages, paid people a year's worth of wages if they were unemployed, and gave out low-interest loans which people could use to build a new life. It was a reflection of a less specific rebuilding project going on throughout the West. In the UK, over 1.2 million new homes were being built between 1946 and 51. House prices remained steady and low for years. More were being built and mortgages weren't seen as financial investments like they are today. There wasn't an expectation of continued growth offset against interest payments. It was this world of prosperity that the baby boomer generation was born into, and they enjoyed the benefits as they were growing up and buying their own homes. But it couldn't last forever. Over time, the rebuilding frenzy died down. More people were born, more families were created, and more houses were needed. Soon enough, demand and inflation started to outpace the supply, and the prices started going up. By now, it was the 70s, and masses of baby boomers had grown up and bought their own homes. There were more mortgages than ever for the banks to play with, but the current model wasn't working too well. Back in those days, mortgages were often shorter, had higher deposits, and a final lump sum to be paid at the end of the term. There wasn't much room for the banks to make interest, and they had to deal with each mortgage individually. They weren't glamorous or particularly good at making large amounts of money for the banks, but one man could see their true potential for profit, and his name was Louis Ranieri. Louis was born in New York in 1947 to an obscure, relatively unknown family. After dropping out of college, his first job in the banking industry was unremarkable. Starting in the mailroom at a firm called Solomon Brothers, Louis spent a decade slowly working his way up the corporate ladder. Early in his career, though, his bosses noticed his skills were mats, and his ability to see profit where others couldn't, along with his uncanny salesmanship. And so as he went up the totem pole, Lewis eventually found himself in a leading role at the mortgages department in his bank. It would have been a dead end for most, but Lewis's biggest strength was his ability to innovate, and it was here that he would come up with his career-defining idea, the mortgage-backed security. It worked by combining a whole set of mortgages from various homeowners into one asset, which would pay out the interest payments made to whoever owned it. Lewis had single-handedly turned mortgages into a profit bonanza. Using his sales techniques and the help of a banker called Larry Fink, their bank sold them by the truckload to other banks and pension funds across the country, and this was one of the most important shifts in the last century. Lewis had turned what was once a boring commodity designed to let people have homes into something his banker friends could exploit to make billions.
You might not know who he is, but he changed your life more than Michael Jordan, the iPod, and YouTube put together. You see, Lewis didn't know it yet, but he'd already changed banking forever with one simple idea.
The mortgage-backed security. You've got your average person's mortgage. Fixed rate, 30 years. Boring, safe, small payoff, right? When you have thousands of them all bundled together, suddenly the yield goes up, but the risk is still small because, well, they're mortgages. And who the hell doesn't pay their mortgage?
And it was these mortgage-backed securities that would eventually lead to the '08 crash, but for now it was incredible for the banks. The mortgage-backed security market was worth $150 billion by 1986, just a few years after Lewis had his bright idea. But before that happened, a few other changes in the housing market led to the disaster we're watching unfold today. As the boomers got their homes and became the largest voting bloc in history, they started favoring laws that would keep house prices high. Politicians obliged, happy to make more money themselves. Housing subsidies ended, the GI Bill never saw modern renewal, and bureaucratic red tape surrounding housing got a whole lot worse. Once the boomers had gotten inside the market, they made sure it was incredibly difficult for anyone else to do the same. It led to the labyrinth maze of zoning codes, planning permission, and arbitrary limits that we know today. The flow of new houses dried up as construction companies had to get permit after permit just to start on a new development. They added years of legal fees, waiting, and paperwork to the process, so even though it was
propelled Whoop-Tee to become an anthem on the streets and airwaves. Everything was looking up, and by 2021, CJ signed his first record deal using his uncle's connections to Warner Records, one of the biggest record labels about, giving CJ the opportunity to market the song the right way, and slowly the listeners came in, with the song eventually reaching number 10 on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart in February 2021, and now has over 450 million views on YouTube. But CJ's rise to fame quickly came with controversy, starting by simply using the term Whoop-Tee. You see, Whoop-Tee was a term used primarily by the notorious New York Blood Gang. It was a gang calling, a way for members to greet each other, and although CJ is seen wearing New York Blood Gang clothing items in his video and using their calling, he's never even come close to being involved with them. And so as the song became popular, the gang members were frustrated. Who was this boy from Brooklyn using their words, acting like he was part of them? They said he was stealing their words, and so CJ received threats for it. But CJ denied trying to steal the word. This happened to be a lie, since CJ allegedly tried to trademark the word Whoop-Tee in October 2020, digging a hole deeper himself. Nonetheless, CJ would release his debut album in 2021, Loyalty Over Royalty. The album was fully backed by Warner Music, and they even connected CJ with French Montana to help produce the album. Now, whilst most of the songs didn't do very well, one song did stand out, Bop. It didn't reach the same success, but still received over 20 million views. It's more than enough for a somewhat aspiring artist, but kind of not what you'd expect from somebody who just released music with over 450 million views. Perhaps CJ got ahead of himself, as you can see him wearing expensive watches and driving a Rolls Royce, showing off his almost certainly fake, lavish lifestyle. But everything about CJ was fake. His way of rising to the top all came from his connections with his uncle, all while CJ claimed to catch fame like other SoundCloud rappers. His being in the gang was fake, his buying all these cars was fake, and although his most famous song was a drill rap song, nothing else he'd make could live up to the hype. He'd been called an industry plant because he never had to earn his way up, he had all the tools handed to him by his uncle. So CJ split from Warner Records shortly after its release due to, quote, creative differences. And although he'd create more music, he'd move away from the drill rap scene that made him famous. Clearly fans of his Whoop-Tee song no longer resonated with the music and didn't give him a second chance. Then in 2020, CJ just stopped making music. He stopped going to shows and pretty much disappeared. Why did this aspiring artist, with all this potential laid out in front of him, just suddenly disappear off the map? Well, a year later, his fanbase would finally find out. CJ took a hiatus from his music career primarily to focus on personal matters, particularly his family and being father to a child. On his return, he explained on Twitter, "I took a year off to raise my son and be a father. To me, that's gangster." The announcement of his return came with a new single called Gangster, that's received almost no attention. CJ had just turned 180 degrees on his fanbase, ignoring them for a year to raise a child, whilst also still putting on his fake persona as a gangster. But you see, the issue with the rap world is that having a child in the gangster rap industry is that this completely goes against the value systems of this culture. While CJ always associated himself with a tough, street-oriented image, rapping about crime and violence, he was following the culture of the rap industry. But as soon as he started acting against this, building a family, starting a new happy life, was completely against his core ideology. So by becoming this parent who took a year's break, CJ had just proved his claims of being a gangster were all fake. And so his public perception as a hardcore streetwise figure was destroyed, and many of his fans were attracted to the artist's rebellious and edgy persona. So seeing them as a responsible, loving parent doesn't really align with their expectations of the rap industry. And this could be seen by CJ's fans' reactions on social media. And that's why CJ's song Gangster received almost no attention. After 4 months, the song has less than 300,000 views.